turned off or placed in a non-audible mode during the meeting. Council members are reminded to please refrain from sending texts and emails during the course of the meeting. Members of council, there are a few changes, agenda changes identified on the package in front of you. I'm going to ask Mr. Fay, our city clerk, to review the changes for today's agenda since its publication last Thursday.
Mayor Jeffrey, members of council, members of the audience, proposed changes to today's agenda is to add item 21.7, minutes from closed session from the Planning and Infrastructure Services Committee meeting from this past Monday evening, September 12th. The following additional items were listed on the agenda when it was published last Friday and are being distributed prior to the meeting. Item 8.1, a report from Chief Clark, Fire and Emergency Services, regarding the enactment of a new fireworks bylaw and repealing fireworks bylaw 147-2006 and amending business licensing bylaw 332-2013. Item 10.4, recommendations from the Planning and Infrastructure Services Committee meeting of September 12th, this past Monday. As well, there is an additional item that was listed on the closed session agenda published for council. Item 21.5, there's a report from Al Meneses, Commissioner of Community Services, dated September 12th, regarding a notice of arbitration, which is in regard to a litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. As well, there is additional business related to item 18, which is regional council business, and there are briefing notes from the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer regarding meetings tomorrow of the Peel Housing Board of Directors and the Region of Peel Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to add to the closed session item 21.8. It's a matter of litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or a local board. And I'd also like to request that we reorder the agenda, because this is a matter of some urgency, but certainly some time sensitivity as it relates to an ongoing matter. And I'd like to request that following announcements today, we go briefly in camera just to deal with 21.8.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Spovieri.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to add an item also, and it's in regards to the closure of the Northeast Interim Library up in Ward 10. We've been just notified last week that the library is closing on October the 1st, and but the permanent library in Springdale won't be ready till sometime next year.
So, Councillor Spovier, I asked you just to add the item. We'll have the debate if it gets
no,
on the agenda.
Just discussion. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So I understand you need a 2/3. Do we need a 2/3 still for all of these items at the end? Okay. And
What number is that?
I believe it will be 16.1 at the time. Any other items anybody wants to add? Mr. Clerk, I would like to add an item under 7.1, which is reports of the head of council. Just like to give an update with regards to the City of Brampton's participation in the 2016 AMO conference, and any updates either I or the CEO can provide. And I believe that would be 7.1. Okay. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Pellechy, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of September 14th be approved as printed and circulated with the additions of 21.7, 21.8, 16.1, and 7.1. All those in favor? That's carried. So we'll be doing the closed session after the announcements for 21.8. Do any members have a declaration of a pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting, item 10.3, the first being item 21.3, which is an item regarding non-union compensation, as my daughter is a non-union employee at Transit. And under item 11.1 in regards to Brampton Safe City, as my husband is the past executive director of that organization.
Okay. You got that, Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Madam Chair, so just for clarity, you're declaring conflict on the entire set of minutes, 10.3, or a specific recommendation? I believe what you're referring to on the generic is recommendation CS 116, 2016, because we have to note that in the minutes.
CS 116, which is the item in regards to
The generic.
generic drug, yes, that's the one item, thank you.
And you're declaring a conflict on item 11.1, the unfinished business?
Yes.
Are you declaring conflicts in any other related business regarding the Brampton Safe City Association?
I would declare conflict on any item related to Brampton Safe City.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to declare a conflict on corporate services minutes, recommendation number 111-2016. I did declare a conflict at the committee meeting. It was a procurement summary report, and when reviewing it, I noticed that a company that my husband is associated with was a successful bidder. Thank you.
Earl, have you got a copy of that? You've got that record? Thank you. Councillor Miles, do you want to provide some clarity on your
Yes, thanks.
pecuniary interest?
Thanks to the assistance of the clerk. On item 10.3, Corporate Services Committee Minutes of September the 7th, there's a recommendation CS 114-2016, and that is business related to non-union staff benefits, as my daughter is a non-union employee at Transit. Peter, if I say anything wrong, just let me know. And then in regards to the closed session minutes of Corporate Services Committee, September the 7th, and item 21.3, and item 11.1, unfinished business regarding Brampton Safe City Association and supplementary update. And it says here, item 10.3, Corporate Services Committee minutes, September the 7th, recommendation CS 116-2016. Is that specific enough? As my husband was the past executive director of Brampton Safe City. I said everything I need to say, Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's your decision in declaring conflict, but the reminders that have been provided to you, I think you've stated.
Okay, great. That's as stated, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you. I'm also going to declare a conflict as my daughter's a non-union for employee of City of Brampton.
So Councillor Fortini, you have to specify which item you're declaring conflict
You're
on.
going to have to say this. Here, item 10.3.
Yeah, it's a 10.3 for corporate service in the minutes for September 7th, meeting recommendation.
Recommendation.
For CS 114-2016.
And this, I think. I don't know.
No,
maybe not that.
no.
Everything clear now?
Okay.
Good. Okay. We're now ready to move to the next item of public business on today's council agenda. This is item 3. This is minutes. We have the following council minutes before us today. For July 6th, moved by Councillor Paleshi, second by Councillor Bowman, that the meeting of September that we had in July 6th to the council meeting of September 14th be approved as printed and circulated. All in favor? It's carried. On the consent agenda, the items listed with an asterisk on today's agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial. The consent motion is to adopt these matters on today's agenda without the need for a separate discussion on the item unless a member requests a separate discussion. There are a number of items listed for the consent motion today. Does any member wish to add or remove from the consent motion any item on the agenda? Councillor Gibson.
I'd like to add an item, unless there's questions from council members. The item 8.1 is the enactment of the fireworks bylaw and repeal of the old bylaw. It's what we discussed in the report is what the chief has put together. So unless there's questions on it, I'd be happy to put that into consent.
Okay. We'll just address this. 8.1, right?
8.1.
So I have a motion moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Pellechy, that the consent agenda as amended be approved. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. We're now at part of the agenda dealing with announcements. Council, today we have 2 announcements. Our first announcement is with regards to the Peel Association for Handicapped Adults, the 11th Annual Bowl-a-thon, which is Saturday, September 24th. Wesley Coupland from the Peel Association for Handicapped Adults is here to make this announcement. Councillor Bowman, you are the council sponsor for the announcement. Would you like to speak now or afterwards? Okay. Welcome, Wesley. Nice to see you again.
I would like to, as Madam Mayor has just stated, Saturday, September 24th, at 3:30 in the afternoon, we are hosting our 11th annual bowl-a-thon to raise money so that we can do more activities. It's at the Brunswick Bowling Lanes on Brampton. It's going to be lots of fun. I'm out there bowling, and I'd like to see most of you councillors come out and make fools of yourselves or have fun. So I'm putting a challenge out there to most of you councillors, come out and have fun, because I've heard that you guys like to bowl. So come on out and have fun and help us raise money so we can do trips, because it costs us $1,000 for the buses that we take to do trips. So come on out and help us.
Is that it, Wesley?
That's it.
Okay, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Wesley, for coming and challenging us to make fools of ourselves. It's something I'm sure we're all willing to do. That's not a problem, and I would also like to commend you on the work that you do with several different charitable organizations, including being my horseshoe partner in the tournament for William Osler. So,
What, you mean the one that scores all the points?
That's right. So thank you very much. I hope to see everybody there at 3:30, and whether you can or can't bowl, there is a form where you can donate or sponsor one of the bowlers and pay for a lane for that bowler as well. So thanks very much, Wes.
Thank you.
So on behalf of council, we'll do our best to join you and look foolish and support a good cause and in assisting people to go on trips. So thank you for the invitation. Appreciate it. Our next announcement is regards to Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It's a Peel. It's a trophy presentation to Councillor Fortini and the City of Brampton. Lori Platti is here with the shiny trophy grasped in her hands. Lori is the Marketing Communications Manager for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Peel, and she's here to speak to us about the 50th anniversary, I think, also.
Yes,
So,
it's exciting.
Welcome.
Mayor Jeffrey and members of council, thank you for having me here today. On behalf of all of us at Big Brothers Big Sisters, I'd just like to congratulate the City of Brampton on winning the City Challenge Trophy for the 8th year in a row. So that's quite an achievement. For those of you who remember the trophy, it started just to this level, so we've had to add a whole other level because of your incredible support. And a special thank you to Councillor Fortini, who led things for this year. A total of $11,310 was raised in support of our agency, and $10,700 of that was contributed through Councillor Fortini's donations. Also a special thank you to Mayor Jeffrey for always coming out and lending your support and cheering on the teams, and you guys do a great job. There was 5 City of Brampton teams out this year, and you guys always have a lot of fun, and you make our event. So I just want to stress how important your contribution is to our agency. $11,300 directly allows us to provide 12 children in our community with a big brother or big sister and monitor and support those matches. So that's the true difference that you guys have made through, coming out and having fun and raising some great funds. So we hope to see you all out next year. As Mayor Jeffrey mentioned, it's the 50th anniversary of Big Brothers Big Sisters Appeal. Our office is in Brampton. We started out in Brampton through members of the Brampton Kiwanis Club, so we're very proud of our roots, and we hope to make next year the biggest and best event ever. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Fortini. Do you want to speak to, Councilor Fortini, do you want to speak before you're presented? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Lori, for coming. It was a lot of fun, and I'd like to thank the mayor and her assistant Gina for helping out, and some of the councilors and staff that came out. I was wondering how you could put my name there, because I see Councilor Grant Gibson, when he brought it to me, it was all him, all over the place. So you might have to do another, I hope I could do the same thing what he did in the last 8 years, but we're just waiting, and I got to thank, Cindy Tate for helping Grant in the past, and Ingrid Jack too, because if it wasn't for her, really, it's kind of hard for us to do all the letters and stuff. So I'm waiting for the next one to come out, and hoping to raise more.
Thank you. It's a great team effort, that's for sure. Thank you very much.
I've got a couple more speakers before we do this. Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's such a great cause, and I'm so pleased that Councilor Fortini took it over this year and did such a great job for you. I was kind of, when I called you and said this year I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I'm sorry I didn't show up at the last minute. I couldn't show up that day, but I was hoping one member of council would take it over and continue on, and I'm so glad that Councilor Fortini did that. And it's funny he should say that, because what I was going to do was challenge him to get his name on there 7 more times. So, just for, you didn't say it, but just for the folks out there in the audience, this is a challenge between the city of Mississauga and us, and Caledon too, but it started with Brampton Council going down and challenging, I think there was 5 of us that day that went down and challenged Hazel McCallion to beat us. They did for the first few years. But then we took over, and they can't get it back off us. So it's all for a great cause.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for Councilor Fortini for taking over and doing us proud. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.
Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, it's one of the events that I really look forward to every year, and thank you to Councilor Gibson for having, continue this legacy. But to Councilor Fortini, I got to witness firsthand the dedication and passion that he put into this event, him with his assistant Ingrid. It was just fantastic, and it really showed the type of character that Councilor Fortini has. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Laura, you're here to make an announcement, but I wonder if you could, for those people who do not know what Big Brothers Big Sisters does, and whether you need Big Brothers and Big Sisters to step up, it would be helpful if they knew generally what you do.
Sure. Thanks for that opportunity. And actually, September is Big Brothers Big Sisters month. So this is the month that we really stress our need for volunteers. We seem to have a greater need growing all the time for mentors in our community. The more children that we match, the more that are still coming into our agency. So we seem to always have a waiting list of 200 children that are waiting for a mentor. We've added so many programs throughout the years to meet the varying needs of the children and families in our community. And right now we have 11 different mentoring programs. So there's everything from your traditional being a big brother, big sister, where you spend 3 or 4 hours every week or two taking out a child and doing some fun activities to help support them and help guide them in the right direction and help make sure that they're making good choices in their life. So things like our in-school mentoring program, which is happening in over 80 local schools in Peel Region. And that's just 1 hour a week during the school year, where you go in during school hours and mentor a child by doing fun activities like playing board games or playing hangman, baking. It's all just to have that rapport with the child, make them feel good about going to school, and in turn, once they feel better about themselves, they start doing better academically and socially at school as well. We also have programs like our Conversation Club for New Canadian Youth, which has been a great introduction of a program to help the new youth that are moving into Canada feel like they kind of fit in, to be with other children that are in the same kind of boat, where they have just, they don't really know anyone. They aren't really used to any Canadian traditions, so we teach them about, things like Halloween and Thanksgiving and things like that, and have lots of fun activities. And we also can help them with homework, and it really has helped them to really connect with the community, which is very important. So yes, there's always a need for more mentors, and the more that we can all help spread the word about that. We have a great relationship with Peel Regional Police, and I think a big part of that is because they truly see the difference of when you have that early support for children and youth, it helps to lead them in the right direction. So there's no potential of other problems happening later. Once you have the right supports in your life, you tend to make better choices. So.
Thank you. Councillor Dillon?
Thank you so much. Just for the audience and perhaps for council as well, can you let us know how someone can get involved, whether there's a website that they can go to?
Sure. We do have a website. It's www.bbbspeel.com. That's the easiest way to see all about our 11 different programs and see what best fits for a person, and you can download an application form right online. Or you can simply call our office at 905-457-7288, and we have an enrollment person, and she's happy to always take calls from anyone and answer any questions and send out an application form and information package.
Thanks. Sorry.
It is a bit of a lengthy process for people, so if anyone is suggesting it to anyone, it does take up to 2 to 3 months to be able to be properly screened, and that's where the time and resources from our agency goes into things. We want to make sure people are serious about their commitment. We want to make sure that they're the right type of person to be matched with a child and going to make the right impact in their life. So we spend a lot of time with interviewing and screening and checking references and doing police checks and all that kind of thing to ensure the safety of our children.
Sorry, so it's BBBSP?
PEEL.
Oh, so PEEL. Okay, gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Fortini?
You did answer some of my questions. So you have to go through a screening. Where are you located in Brampton?
We're located at the corner of West Drive and Clark Boulevard, right by the Brampton Transit Station.
Right. Now, how old do these kids in the program? Do they start at a certain age to a certain age, or?
Yep, they can apply at the time when they're 6 years old, and we will keep their match going and their file going until they're 18 years old. And then we officially close their file once they turn 18. But it's so nice to see the longevity of some of the matches. We actually have a Brampton match who has been together for over 26 years now and still get together every week, which is incredible. Their get-togethers are a little different. They might go drinking beer, but they still get together. He's not only been a big brother to him, but he's also helped him with his business. So they do have some of the same clients. So they go for so-called business lunches now, and it's nice to see that they've been in each other's wedding parties. Matthew's helped to babysit Darren's children. It's really nice to see the longevity of that. So it's not necessarily just a year commitment. These can be lifelong friendships.
Long friendship, yeah. So really, when they get all screened and go through the criminal checks and whatever, they are actually allowed to take them out if they want to go to a party or a movie or
It depends on the program.
Right.
If it's a community-based program, like being a big brother or big sister, then yes, that's the idea. Whatever it is that you both like to do, then you go out and you make your own plans. If it's a school-based program, everything happens on school premises. And you're not to have contact with the child outside of the school. So there is some differences depending on the program.
Thank you.
But from being a longtime employee there, my favorite is always our traditional program of being a big brother, big sister, because those are those lifelong stories that I was speaking about, which I don't think can compare to anything else. It's really nice to see that. They become a part of each other's family, really.
Very good.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini, I think you need to go up for your picture. Okay.
Gotta do the rule. I'll send this to you, okay? I'll send it to you. Thank you. Oh, what's the thing with you? What are we doing there? We have to announce. We didn't say the date.
Yeah, I don't even know, but the date isn't 100% confirmed for the Brampton Center. We're also going to direct them on
Okay, Council? Our last announcement is with regards to the Government Finance Officers Association. Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, Dave Sutton is here, Director of Finance and Interim Treasurer, to make the announcement. I'm the council sponsor for the event. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors, city staff, and members of the public. I'm here to present great news about the City of Brampton's latest accomplishment. The City of Brampton's approved business plan and budget 2016 to 2018 has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, otherwise known as the GFOA. Not only is this the GFOA's highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting, this award is the only national awards program in government budgeting. In order to receive this award, the city had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. These guidelines assess how well the budget serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications guide. While the Finance Division applied for and received the award on behalf of the city, we did not accomplish this alone. Achievement of such an award reflects teamwork from all across the corporation. I would like to congratulate and thank all of those involved for their tireless work in contributing to this milestone. In particular, I would like to thank our financial planning team, our client services team, our colleagues from across the Finance Division, the strategic communications team, the print shop team, and the city's leadership team. This is the first year the city applied for and received the award, and it represents a significant achievement in good government. In addition to other recent recognitions, such as our improved Standard & Poor's rating, the C.D. Howe Institute, and the Frontier Center for Public Policy, the GFOA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award reflects the ongoing commitment of council and staff to meet the highest principles of governmental budgeting. I guess at this point I'd like to maybe have the mayor, maybe actually have the staff stand up and be recognized, if I can get my staff. And Madam Mayor, if I could maybe ask you to make the presentation of the certificate to staff for the award. I would also ask that maybe Councillors Miles and Gibson also stand in beside our staff as well, as the former chair for many budget cycles, as well as Councillor Gibson, who's now standing in as the new chair of Budget Committee.
Yeah, you put the pressure on Councillor Gibson. Yeah. So before we come to the picture, I just wanted to say thank you. This is a big deal. This is huge for us to be seen as a model of good governance. And as the mayor, and I'm sure my colleagues feel, we're really pleased that you put us on the map in this very professional accreditation. So thank you very much for all you do and all that you will do in the course of budgets ahead. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Fay, this was sponsored by the mayor, right? But isn't this under corporate services? Okay. But the financial and budget should have been under corporate services.
Well, there's a budget, the separate budget.
Yeah, it doesn't apply. It's not under corporate services, the treasurer? The treasurer?
is council, so announcements happen at council.
I understand, but usually you get the area chair to sponsor it.
Yeah, that's up to the departments.
Yeah, so there was, I think there was a lopsided. Because the department would fall, wouldn't that budget and finance fall under his finance?
No, because there's separate budget committees that are established, that's why.
But still, it's just a financial program. No?
I see the distinction, but I mean, it's up to the departments whether it's passed through the mayor.
Yeah. Okay, for future reference. You like that, eh? I'm learning from you, dude.
What did you do?
That's it. But it's more the action. It's more about going with this thing, doing the action of the work.
So, council, we're going to step, as we agreed after the announcement, we would be proceeding into closed session to deal with the following closed session item only. This is 21.8, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board and OMB matters. So we will be recessing to deal just with this matter and coming back to deal with the balance of our agenda. So we're in recess. We'll be in closed session 5 minutes. Oh, can I get a vote on that? All those in favor? Sorry. Thank you. Carried. Okay, council, we're going to get back from our recess. We are at 8, council, we have a little housekeeping to do. Councillor Moore, I believe, needs to open the agenda, the consent agenda. So Councillor Moore, did you want to speak on this item so that we follow procedure?
Yes, Madam Mayor. If we could reopen the agenda to remove item 8.4 from the consent agenda. Staff have brought to my attention that under the changes to the Planning Act of Ontario, there is an additional recommendation that needs to be included in planning applications such as this. So I really just need to, and the amendment is on the screen, amend report recommendations under item 8.4 to include this statement as one of the new requirements under the Planning Act.
Okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Fortini. This is with regards to 8.4, and you have the written language in front of you. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. So our next item of business, I believe, is 7.1. Is that right, Mr. Clerk? Okay. This is an item added by me that I put on at the beginning of the meeting. I just wanted to update council and staff and the public on the recent success that we had with regards to Brampton's participation in the 2016 AMO conference. This is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which was held in Windsor in August. Our new CAO, Harry Schlang, will likely want to add some comments to anything that I update people on, but I just wanted to, first of all, thank Councillor Miles, Councillor Pelushi, Councillor Moore, and Councillor Gibson for attending the AMO conference and being part of 7 meetings that we had, and we are tracking the outcomes of those meetings that we had. The first meeting I have here is the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and we met with the Honourable Catherine McGarry to talk with her about Riverwalk, downtown Etobicoke Creek revitalization study, and to discuss any future partnerships and opportunities. And I know that our CEO, Harry Schlang, is in discussions with individuals in the Department of Natural Resources. Mr. Schlang, did you want to comment on anything here on this yet?
Through you, Madam Mayor, maybe towards the end.
Okay.
Just give you a summary of what activities happened since AMO.
Perfect. We met with the Ministry of Infrastructure, so that was the Minister, Bob Chiarelli, to discuss the access and acquisition of Crown property to build the Goreway Drive's grade separation. We talked with the Minister of Transportation, the Honourable Stephen Del Duca. We provided him with an update on the Queen Street Rapid Transit Master Plan. We asked for the province to engage in the study and the funding of the Downtown Anchor Mobility Hub and the Huron-Ontario Steels Mobility Hub Master Plan. And we also asked the Minister to expedite the construction of the Francisini Bridge over 410 to complete this connection of the Esker Lake Trail. We talked with the Ministry of the Attorney General, the Honourable Minister Yasser Naqvi, with regards to Crown property as well, the same conversation we had with Mr. Chiarelli with regards to the Goreway Drive grade separation. We talked with the Minister of Advanced Education and Skills Development. This is a newly named ministry, essentially to talk about Brampton's continued need for a university campus, and asked the Minister to expedite the proposal call for post-secondary expansion. We were able to meet with the Parliamentary Assistant, Mr. Han Dong, and we have had some conversations about that since. We talked with Lou Rinaldi, the Parliamentary Assistant in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and to discuss regional governance and Brampton's need for representational fairness at the region of Peel. We also, lastly, we talked with the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, with the Minister himself, Minister Eric Hoskins, with regards to the status and the funding for Brampton Civic and future plans for a 3rd hospital. Mr. Schlang, did you want to update?
It's through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so I felt that AMO was really just to plant the seed. It was all about building relationships, and I feel having 5 representatives there really did start to move the files.
On 5 of the 7, we've had contacts. All of the councillors made sure that I had a contact I could follow up with, and then 5 of the 7, the follow-up is starting to happen. And our staff will continue to press and give you some updates going forward. On 2 of the files, the education and the governance, there's no further follow-up. They've told us that, the proposal will be coming out, and the one on governance is ongoing. But on 5 of the 7 files, we have contacts, and we're really going to move forward. So it's not, there'll be further follow-up and maybe some further needs to go to Queen's Park, but I'll keep you posted on how we move forward from a staff perspective.
Thank you. Councillor Miles.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say also that I felt that the whole AMO experience this year was a very positive one. I attended many AMO conferences, and the fact that we were actually doing something concrete, meeting with ministers, bringing forward policies and priorities of the municipality was really a good thing, and we worked as a team in order to bring the message very positive. One of the sections that I was entrusted with bringing our message to was the one on governance. And we did meet with Mr. Lou Rinaldi, who is the parliamentary assistant. And I guess from my perspective, I was not overly enthusiastic about the response that we got from Mr. Rinaldi. I do think that if we are going to move the governance agenda forward, it has to come from here. It has to come from this council, and that we can no longer wait even another week until we actually sit down as a council and come up with a strategy that is going to drive this forward. We do have members of provincial parliament, all with this government, that I think we should be meeting with sooner rather than later in order to bring Brampton's message to the province of Ontario. After all, these same representatives represent the same community that we represent. And right now, in our members of provincial parliament, they probably represent about 50 to 55,000 people, and members of this council are representing well over 100,000. So we have got to, I really think that this council has got to take some action, and take some action quickly, or we're going to be having the same discussion in the next term of council. So I would like to see us start moving that message forward. I would be happy, Madam Mayor, to take some leadership on this, working with you if possible. But I just don't want to sit back and end up in the same position 3 years from now. It's just unconscionable that Brampton today does not have the kind of representation that we should have at the region, and after the next term of council, we will be in a far worse position at the region of Peel. So I know I jumped in on your report, but we need some kind of council direction, or we need something from council in order to get going. So I'm looking for...
I have 2 other speakers on the board, but I guess I believe there is council direction, and I have used that council direction in conversations that I've had in at least 2 occasions to talk to the Premier about it.
Okay, good.
I believe the province is going to be tabling legislation later this year that will speak to this issue. I don't know exactly what it will say, but we have certainly been extremely vocal on this, and I appreciate your pushing this agenda. You're on the right track.
Okay.
So I'm happy to work with you on it.
If I could, Madam Mayor, the first step being setting up a meeting then with all of our provincial members of parliament to provide them with the information and the data that they need in order to help support the request. Do I need a motion?
I'm happy to help you with that.
Good.
So I don't know if we need direction. I'm happy to do that with you, and anybody else who wants to be part of that conversation.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm happy to help you with that. Okay, Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I 100% agree with Councillor Miles' comments. And one of the things that struck me our representatives aren't part of this, and not to their fault, I'm not blaming them for that. We're meeting with the ministers, and they're not there. Probably where we're missing is we should be keeping them up to date on where we're going. So having a meeting with our representatives here so they can continue, help us relay that message to the province to get it done, as with that guy say, get her done, is probably good for us to do. And we haven't done that. And I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying we haven't done that. So we need to do that right away. I want to thank Harry for asking me to come to AMO. I've never been to an AMO before. Been to FCM a number of times, never to AMO. And not because they didn't really want to go, but we always had a representative there, Sandra Haynes, for years, kept us updated on what was going on and things like that. I really enjoyed it. I really thought we really accomplished a lot of good stuff there, our little delegation. If there was a lapse in what happened that I saw there was that we weren't as, and this isn't our fault, but we weren't as coordinated with, as a regional council, with the regions maybe we should have been. Because what ended up happening was, I didn't even know until I got there that I was supposed to be at a regional thing. That we told me from the region that I was supposed to be at one of the things. Councillor Moore and I ended up at the last minute running to get to one of the regional meetings so we could be with that delegation. So maybe next year we can kind of work a little closer with the region to make sure we're not overlapping, and so we all know that we're on the same track. And again, that's not our fault here. That's maybe just a coordination thing. And I'm going to make a suggestion. As much as I've been to FCM before, and they're very important things. We've made some really good contacts over the years. I think all the years I've been on council, I've been 5 times. But they always weren't as organized as what they should have been. Some years I went, we were really organized, we really did some good stuff. And other years we went, we kind of felt like we were on our own, and what the heck are we doing type of thing. So I'm going to make a suggestion that we try to coordinate around the table here with all of us to both come within a few months of each other, a couple of months of each other. I think FCM is in June and the other one's in August. Maybe we try to, between us here, put 2 delegations together. Some might go to FCM and delegate and put an agenda together on what we're going to try to accomplish at FCM in a global type of thing. And then maybe the rest of us, maybe the same people, could be the same people, but doesn't have to be, might want to say, well, we're going to AMO and we're going to make those contacts and do that, because it was really worthwhile. It struck me how much I thought we really were able to accomplish. And meeting with the ministers and their assistants, that was a really made the whole thing to me worthwhile going. It wasn't a waste of my time. And so I want to thank you for inviting me, and just maybe some suggestions how we can kind of coordinate with all of us to help put the Brampton message forward. Thank you.
So before I go to my next speaker, I'm just going to tell you that Mississauga, on the governance file, Mississauga reaffirmed their position that they held at the Region Appeal the other day. So the loop has been closed with regards to what can be accomplished at the region. So we really do need provincial intervention into our governance file. So just as an update, and Councillor Gibson, I would agree with you that organization in a very compact 2 days is vital, and it wasn't as good as it could have been this past time, but it's something we can work on a future basis. So I know that Mr. Schlein will have the right person in place to help manage that file on a go-forward basis. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thank you to my colleagues who attended AMO, having attended AMO on both sides previously. I do appreciate the work that was put into it, and also the staff. Just I guess a question to our CEO. I guess for preparation, one thing with elections around the corner, my experience having worked there is they have priorities similar to us, and they're not really going to waver from their priorities as election is looming. So did we get a sense of, in terms of our asks, how do they align with their strategic priorities and policies already at the provincial level? Because, if you look at sort of their RBP plans, and if you look at their policy schedule, very difficult that they're going to be changing course on asks at AMO. So I'm just wondering from a realistic, and it's not an answer I need now, but from a strategic perspective, have we looked at, what their overall priorities are and what type of alignment we have with our asks?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it was Councillor Peleschi in one of the workshops said, let's focus on the provincial priorities, let's align our ask to that versus our strategic plan. And we have shifted that way, and we'll continue to monitor that. You're correct, really drive those provincial priorities and match them. So we did do that in these presentations, and we can strengthen that going forward.
So just through the Madam Mayor, so I guess my understanding is our asks were aligned with what the provincial. Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just not to beat the governance issue to death here, but you mentioned that your understanding or through conversations that there may be some legislation put forward in the fall, maybe drawing on your experience at the province. Because to this point, while various regions or municipalities have expressed concern around governance for different reasons in their hometowns, there hasn't been a sort of a provincial-wide consultation on this. So is that something we could expect to see with that? And the region appeal is a little bit of a misfit toy because we have our own legislation where you've got the City of Toronto Act, you've got the Region Appeal Act that very clearly defines what our representation will look like, and then you have sort of the rest of the province. So for me, that gave the province an opportunity to sort of deal with us separately. They've obviously chosen not to do that, and I sort of had a sense when we met with Mr. Rinaldi, that he was holding back, and that may be what you refer to, Madam Mayor, in terms of, they're working on something, but there very much needs to be a consultation on this. While we may have some grievances that, are shared by other municipalities, we have other specific things that I think are unique to the region of Peel. There's a big difference between a municipality like, drawing on your experience, Mr. Schlang down in Niagara region, where it's, how many municipalities? 12 municipalities, where we are 3. And I, while there's some parallels, there's also some distinct differences and advantages for us through that whole conversation. So anyways, I guess it's kind of a statement and kind of a question in terms of, do you think we can expect some consultation on this?
So I'm not going to get into too many details, but I have had multiple conversations with both the minister and the premier on this issue, as I know the mayor of Mississauga has as well. And we are both in agreement that a solution cannot be found unless the province provides some leadership on this issue. We also know that we are extraordinarily large cities that are only going to get bigger, so the problem is likely only going to be exacerbated by increased population. There is not enough time to do a proper consultation from a provincial perspective, but I think that the province is well aware of the urgency, the uniqueness of Peel, and I'm going to wait and see what they table. But I think that they certainly know how important this issue is to us, so
okay.
I'm hopeful.
Thank you.
Councillor Miles.
Just sort of to conclude the conversation, I do know that our interim Commissioner of Corporate Services has done a lot of work on the whole governance in Peel issue. So we would look forward to some guidance and some of the experience, Mr. Moyle, that you have on this subject as well. I think it's kind of apropos that you're here with us at this point in time because you're well versed on this subject, and certainly your experience, not just with the town of Caledon in governance, but also AMO and other municipalities. We hope that you're going to be able to help us in a very positive way for the city of Brampton. So, thank you.
It'll be interesting being on this side of Brampton this time, Mr. Moyle.
Put the pressure on him.
Councillor Scorbieri.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I just had a feeling deja vu. We're discussing this issue again like we did back in the last term, 2 years before the election, and we were again told that it was kind of late in the game and that not much was going to happen, and it's I don't know if there's a solution. I don't believe the province wants to really get involved in our swabble, because it's not going to benefit them in any way. If anything, it's going to hurt them to do what Brampton wants and what Mississauga doesn't want. So I don't know where we go with this. I think we're just spinning our wheels here, and I don't know what the solution is to the problem, and it's a serious problem for Brampton, but I don't think nobody seems to care, and it's unfortunate, and I don't know what the answer is. I know you tried your best with your efforts, and but again, we're just disappointing that we're at this situation again as we were at the last term with this issue. It's really unfortunate. It's just disappointing. Thank you.
So, Councillor Scorbieri, I'm not as despondent as you are. I am very hopeful, and I'm not finished, and we're not done yet. So, we're still working on this. I believe in fairness for Brampton, and I'm not going to stop until we get it. So, Councillor Miles, would you like to move the verbal report? Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Our next item is item 8.1, which was put into consent by Councillor Gibson, so we don't need to deal with that one. Next item is 8.2 regarding the 2017-19 budget, the deliberation schedules. We have a motion moved by Councillor Pelletier, seconded by Councillor Bowman. Are there any questions? Councillor Scorbieri, are you on the board for this item?
No.
Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for bringing this report forward, and this is, just to remind council, this is the report due to the conversations that have gone on with the council members and what they wanted. If you recall, all council members were surveyed on the budget process and how they wanted it to proceed for this year. When I was made chair, we made sure that everybody had an opportunity to give us their thoughts on that. So this is what's come out of that, so I'm hoping for approval on it. Just one thing on there, once the schedule is approved, I would ask staff to let the outside groups know that report to us right away at our BIA meeting this week. They're trying to put their budget together, but they're trying to just, know when, they have to know when they have to present to the city, which is coming up fairly shortly, so they're going to have to do a little bit of scrambling. But if we can let them know right away when we expect, and I don't know if we've even thought about it yet, them to be reporting here, that would be helpful for those groups. Okay, thank you.
I have no more speakers. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? That's carried. 8.3 was considered as part of the announcement, as was 8.4 was consent, 8.5 was consent, 8.6 was consent, as was 8.7. Now we're at 8.10. Committee reports or minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes today, and under council meetings procedures, the committee chair introduces their committee report or minutes, summarizes the matters considered that are now being brought forward to council today for ratification. Councillor Bowman, you chaired Economic Development Committee, which met on September 7th. Committee minutes are here for council approval. I now pass the chair to you to lead council in consideration of those committee minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. On Wednesday, September 7th, we had the Economic Development meeting, and we had a delegation from Mr. Brock Dickinson, CEO, and Lyndon Ashton, Senior Consultant of MDB, insight on the Peel Memorial Centre and surrounding precinct market and economic development opportunity study, which generated some good questions. We also had a presentation from Nancy Johnson. She presented the new Human Health and Sciences video, which is going to be going out very, very shortly. And it documents how the human health and sciences sector is connected to the economic development master plan here in Brampton. We have a report from Bill Grant on the Community Grant Program updates, and there was discussion on the grant program launch and the flexibility of the established program outside of the established program guidelines and dates. Second report from Mr. Grant regarding our support for the Lawrence Scott's 150th anniversary, the Color Parade event, which is coming up September 24th. We had a discussion at the request of Mayor Jeffrey in support of the auto industry and the importance of the automotive sector to our local economy here in Brampton, which is critical. We also had a verbal update from Councillor Willens on the golf tournament for Peel Memorial Centre for Integrated Health and Wellness, and the fact that it is very near, if not sold out now, so a great job there. Any questions? Seeing none, I pass it back to you, Madam Mayor, for ratification. Thank you.
I have a motion moved by, sorry, I've moved my, what item is this? This is 10.1, is it? 10.2. Okay. Moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Willens, that the minutes of the Economic Development Committee be received and the recommendations be approved as outlined in the subject minutes. All in favor? All opposed? That's carried. Councillor Medeiros, you chaired the Corporate Services Committee, which met on September 7th. The committee minutes are here for council approval. I now pass the chair to you to lead council in consideration of those minutes.
Madam Mayor, before we start this item, throw it over to Councillor Medeiros. There are three members of council that declared conflicts on portions of these sets of minutes.
One. Yep.
Mr. Chair, perhaps for the convenience of council, there should be a separate vote on recommendation CS 111-2016, as Councillor Moore had declared a conflict on that, and we'll have to leave for that item, and then she can be part of the consideration of the remainder of the business on that item, on the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Okay. I don't need a motion, right? All in favor? Oh, can I get a motion moved by Councillor Bowman? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we'll wait for Councillor Moore to come in. Okay, thank you. So at Corporate Services Committee, we discussed the proposed amendment to business licensing regarding sales of dogs and cats from pet stores. There's also discussion around Safe City in terms of accounting, and we made an amendment to a procedure bylaw regarding public notices. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Spoveri.
Mr. Chairman, on the Safe City issue, I was expecting some information from staff, some questions that were asked last week.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Sprovieri, that's unfinished business item 11.1, which is on the council agenda.
Oh, okay, so we can talk about it after. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sprovieri. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Medeiros, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the minutes be received and the recommendations as approved and outlined in the subject minutes be approved. All those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Okay, did I skip it? So I'm going to go back to 10.1. I skipped it. Councillor Gibson, you chaired Community and Public Services Committee, which met on September 7th. The committee minutes are here for council approval. I now pass the chair to you, lead council, in the consideration of the committee minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It wasn't a very big agenda, and I'm sure it's fresh in everybody's mind. It's the minutes of the September 17th, 2016 Community and Public Services Committee. Are there any questions or comments on any item in there? Seeing none, Madam Mayor, I'll pass them back to you for ratification.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Palashi, that the minutes be received and the recommendations be approved as outlined in the subject minutes. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Going back to Councillor Moore, you chaired Planning and Infrastructure Services Committee, which met this past Monday evening, September 12th. Committee recommendations are only here for Council's approval. The committee minutes will be presented to Council on September 28th for receipt. I now pass the chair to you, lead Council, in consideration of those committee recommendations.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This should be really fresh in everybody's mind. On Monday evening, we had 6 statutory public meetings. 2 of those were city-initiated. Of particular note was the statutory public meeting on the municipal comprehensive review and lands that the public could offer comments with regard to converting employment lands to non-employment uses. There were 2 in Ward 4 in the area of Mississauga Road and Queen Street, and 2 in Ward 9. We had 2 delegations, one from Morgard Investments and the other from Osmington Incorporated Land, with regard to a matter before the Ontario Municipal Board, and the committee proceeded in camera to have a discussion and give direction to staff on that. Item 6.1 was an application that was withdrawn, and I'm going through in the absence of the minutes, but there was one report under engineering and construction. There were several minutes from subcommittees, the Brampton Heritage Board, the Cycling Advisory Committee, and Councillor Bowman on the August 18th minutes withdrew a recommendation from the Cycling Advisory Committee and made a special note of the Planning Committee passing a resolution with regard to the provincial climate change strategy. So I'm sure that the Cycling Advisory Committee will be happy to know that we have done that. There were the minutes, 2 minutes on the Environmental Advisory Committee. Councillor Miles added a discussion item on single-family residential properties to multiple unit dwellings, and staff advised that they'll be bringing forward an update report on that. We had items of correspondence, for one in particular, from CARP, the Canadian Association of Retired Persons, and Mayor Jeffrey advanced a motion to have staff undertake some work to move Brampton in the direction of also becoming designated age-friendly cities. And it will show in your recommendations that are before you. In addition, Councillor Medeiros sought some, under public question period, an update from staff with regard to the City of Brampton's position on growing the green belt legislation, and got a response. And when he asked his question, he gave a bit of a preamble, and I know I thanked you, Councillor Medeiros, for that preamble on Monday night. I also want to express my appreciation. Councillor Medeiros expressed some displeasure and disappointment about a One Brampton publication that was made that made some disparaging comments about a couple of his council colleagues, myself and Councillor Bowman, and it's appreciated that you took a position on that, Councillor Medeiros. Thank you. And seeing no questions, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Mayor, for ratification.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. You did well, considering you didn't have anything in front of you. You have a motion moved by Councillor Moore, second by Councillor Palashi, that the recommendations be received and the recommendations be approved as outlined in the subject minutes. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. So we are now at 11.1. This is unfinished business item with regards to the Brampton Safe City Association Accounts Supplementary Report. Corporate Services Committee referred this matter to today's council meeting with a request that staff A, report on notice provisions provided to BSCA staff resulting from business organization closure, cease of operations, and B, determine if the BSCA have fulfilled their legal obligations under the Nonprofit Corporations of Ontario for voluntary winding down of their business. Staff is here to update council, and I turn the floor over to staff. Dennis Squires is going to be giving us update, and
Madam Mayor, I am going to suggest to council that this is a matter council may decide to consider in closed session to receive solicitor-client advice on a matter of litigation or potential litigation. And I would ask if council wishes to pass a resolution to do so, and if council elects to go into closed session, perhaps we might go to the closed session portion of the meeting at the end of this open session.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I have no problem in going into closed session to listen to legal advice, but still, we were expecting some kind of report from staff to those very public questions which were discussed in public in committee last week, and whether there is an answer or not, or whether staff has not prepared an answer or not. Perhaps the solicitor can explain whether he wants to give us that information in camera, or whether he wants to give us legal advice on whether, on this matter, period.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the city is a potential claimant as against the organization. There have been discussions about how the city should proceed. The answers to these questions appeared to me to be part of that discussion and consequently eligible for closed session consideration.
Well, and as I said, I'm willing to listen to it, but I hope that we're not contravening any provincial regulations or on going into camera in this matter, because it's been a very public issue that's been going on for months and months, and so if we'll go into camera, and if we feel that this has to be discussed further in public, then we will do that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, what is your advice on this point?
Through you, Madam Mayor, as the city solicitor has advised, this would be item 21.9, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, and as the solicitor has advised, perhaps would be dealt with the remaining 7 closed session items that are already on the closed session agenda towards the end of the meeting, but I'll refer to the city solicitor.
I would suggest that this is also a matter of litigation or potential litigation.
Okay, so we'll make it 21.9 in our closed session. Do I need a mover to accept the verbal advice at this point? Okay, all right. Okay. All right, our next item is 16.1. This is new business placed on the agenda by Councillor Spovieri with regards to the closure of the Northeast Interim Library. Councillor Spovieri, did you want to speak?
Yes, certainly, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. This issue was brought to our attention by a very disgruntled constituent that found out that the interim library in Springdale is closing down before the permanent library is opening, and we don't know when that permanent library is opening. I think it's been probably over a year behind already in its construction, and I believe that the library made provisions to close down the interim branch to co-align with the opening of the permanent branch. And as a matter of fact, I found out that the library extended the lease on the temporary site for a year to get over that delay. But now we're finding out that it may be another 8 months before the permanent library opens up. So there's very angry reaction from the people who use that, and I believe that it's very well used and very. And a lot of the people there are not very happy about the closure and the inconvenience it's going to cause them for the next 8 months until the permanent library opens. And I don't know whether it will open in 8 months. The way I've driven by it several times, and I don't see the construction really progressing very very quickly. It's a similar situation with the Gore Meadows, where they're behind almost a year and a half already. So it's hard to tell when it's going to actually open for business. So what I am asking, and the resident has asked myself and Councillor Dillon to represent their interest and to ask and see whether staff can work with the library board to see whether we can extend the use of the interim branch on Mountain Ash, but they would require some additional funding that they never submitted to council last budget, because they thought that the 1 year extension would have been sufficient to get over that construction period. And so they would need additional funding to get them over to the opening of the permanent branch. So I'm asking, Madam Mayor, I'm asking staff to look into that, because the closing, I believe, is going to schedule for October 1st, and that's why I put it on the agenda today and not to committee next week, because there's an urgency to really look into this and see if we can, the city can provide the funds to extend the lease until the permanent library opens up.
So, Councillor Sparvieri, maybe because you and your colleague are more knowledgeable about this particular issue, maybe we get staff to give us some background. Commissioner Menzies, I believe, has got some background information on this decision and the impact of your request, I believe.
Certainly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Through the chair to the councillor, I think your facts are in essence, what you stated are in actual factual accuracies. I'm not sure in terms of the actual utilization of the actual branch, but the library CEO is here. But just to provide some background, the new Springdale Library is indeed delayed, as we've updated you in the past. It's about 15 months delayed right now. There were some unforeseen site conditions and some things, and we are mitigating as much as we can. We have kept the library board apprised of the revised construction schedule. In regards to negotiating a lease extension, and the library CEO can speak in terms of particulars, you're looking at about a $100,000 cost to extend that lease. In addition to that, there's some resourcing requirements in regards to staffing the library for that extended period of time. And in total, you're looking at about a $350,000 all-in cost to extend the library lease and put the staff resources in place to keep it functioning.
Well, Madam Mayor, I know that's frightening to hear that, but there is staffing at that branch right now, that they're there doing the job. And I know that they've been scheduled to move to another branch to extend the hours of that branch. But, and I know that's a library board decision, but to me, I believe that that move can be delayed to provide the service to the people in the east side of Brampton or the Springdale community, rather than shut them down completely and extend an improved service to another branch somewhere else in the city. To me, that is totally unacceptable. And I believe, I know there's a cost, and I know that if the library board had known that this was going to be delayed longer than the year that they were expecting, that they would have come, I'm sure they would have come here and, or at least if they, I would hope that they would come here and say, listen, we need funding for an additional 6 months or 8 months over and above the year delay, and I would hope that they would have done that. And to me, and I'm sure Councillor Dillon can speak for himself, to shut down the doors to an interim site that's been it's been very well used, and perhaps the library CEO can speak to that, how well it is used.
So, Councillor Spillier, can I interrupt and perhaps suggest that we invite Rebecca Raven, the CEO,
Sure.
to delegate? Would that be interested?
Yeah.
Councillor Spillier, Ms. Wig, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Would you mind coming forward and speaking on behalf of the library board? Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yes, and I'm delighted to be here and speak to the issue. And agree that it's going to be a resource in the community that will be missed. And the library board was aware. We've been obviously keeping everyone apprised of the gap in service. And, you know, when I spoke to the resident, first of all, I thanked her very much for her concern, because what this speaks to is the level of commitment and value that the public library brings to every community. So first and foremost, it's really nice to be here, to be speaking about people who are so passionate about library service in our city. What's happening at Northeast is, in some respects, because we've known for some time, unfortunately, an interim site should never be open for 10 years, and that's how long Northeast has been open, with the name the Northeast Interim Site. So we've known this was coming. In October of 2014 was when the board took the vote to extend the lease for 1 year from 2015 to 2016, and that's where we are now. So over that last year, we've been preparing for the closure of Northeast. So programming, which was always extremely limited at that location, has been reduced by a bit, and activity in that location has slowed dramatically. So Northeast is now serving approximately 250 customers a week over the 40 hours. And while I'm not diminishing that those are important customers and the interactions that happen are important, when we put that in the context of extending the hours at another location that is currently serving 5,600 customers a week, it puts the numbers in a context.
Councillor Sperry, did you have any questions, or can I go to my next speaker? Would you like to be on the board again? Or?
Well, you know, I appreciate the information, and I was aware that because of the scale down of the service, people are now going elsewhere. They're going to the Gore Meadows, they're probably going to the Chinguacousy branch, or perhaps even to the one in Heart Lake, Cyril Clark, to get the service that they were accustomed to. But again, these very loyal people are still going there. They're not happy. They see us as being poor planners, that planning in a good manner, and they want us to carry on, provide the service that they're used to, and that's why I'm bringing this forward to council. So if there's a way, and that's why I was asking that staff deal with this with the board and see if there's any way to try to prolong the lease, maybe not for another year, but maybe for 6 months, and try to close that gap a little closer with a very skeleton staff, perhaps, rather than have the staff that you've been having there continually. I was hoping that our staff and you would be able, Rebecca, would be able to discuss that, and that was my motion to refer it back to you to bring back a report for us and see if it makes sense or not, and how much we can really make it happen for the cost. And I explained to the resident that this is it's a huge amount of money for a short time, and that there's other options. But the resident is very, as you know, very committed and very passionate about being able to have something closer to home, and so that's why I'm bringing it before council. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Willens.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just again, when's the absolute date they have to be out?
Through Madam Chair, the lease expires on October 31st. We, in consultation with the library board, have set the actual closing date for the branch on October 1st. And that allows us an opportunity to decommission and turn it back over to the lease management.
And second question, in context, we went through the same growing pains in the Northwest before the Mount Pleasant Library was open. I think I seem to recall about 8 years ago there was a mobile trailer set up at Credit View and Credit View Road by the fire station there. So it's not that we haven't gone through this before, but I mean, there are growing pains with the city. I feel for Councillor Spoberary and Councillor Dillon as well, but I guess it's something that we sort of have to look at from the budget aspect. I mean, we did have that same, I don't even think that trailer had circulation. I think people went and ordered their books and went the next day and picked it up. So, I mean, it is part of a growing city, but I can't justify seeing the amount of money that library board will have to spend on that. So, but I'm in favor of a report. Maybe if you talk with Alan, come back with the report. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dillon.
Thank you. Just wanted to say that I do agree with Councillor Spoberary. I know that there's a lot of kids within the community, my kids as well, who do use the library. It's become an important resource for them. It's become a staple for much of Springdale. And I do think there's something that staff should definitely look into it. I think a one-year gap might seem insignificant to some, but for the most of the residents, I think everybody here, I think we wouldn't want that gap in there. So I'm hopeful that staff can look into it. I think Councillor Spoberary. I got a second. Is putting forth a motion right now. Thank you.
So my list keeps growing and changing, so I'm going to, before we go any further, I'm just going to let you know what the motion is. Councillor Spoberary has moved and Councillor Dillon has seconded. Something about the library board. Be requested to investigate the potential opportunity and funding applications of keeping open the interim Northeast Library branch until the Springdale Library is completed with an estimated total cost, and that the library board be requested to report to council on or before September 28, 2016. So that's the motion, if I can get the first couple words deciphered. Councillor Miles.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. My question would be through you to Rebecca. Rebecca, there's a lot of public schools in that area with libraries. Is it possible to explore an opportunity perhaps with one of the schools where the library could have sort of an interim or a partial branch in the schools, in the public system where perhaps, as was done in other places, people come in, they can order books, they can return them, and maybe some after-hours opportunities there. I mean, I'm grasping, but it's going to be pretty hard for council to support an expenditure of $350,000 for 250 people when you look at the numbers that other branches are drawing. But that doesn't mean that the need isn't as great as the councillors are saying. I mean, this is something that we've discussed over the years, that we do have libraries in every school, and certainly joint use agreements with them make sense. The province of Ontario has been moving forward on its legislation, as the mayor and the other members of council who are AMO, around the community hub model, where schools are actually to be looked at as community centers with activities going on after normal hours. So this may be an opportunity to to pilot, something that would be creative and good for the whole community. So Councillor Sprovieri's and Councillor Dillon's motion for further discussion, I can support that. But I would like to see us kind of look outside of the box and see if there aren't some opportunities there within the schools to create or meet that need for the interim period. So I don't know if we could, does the motion need amended to do that?
Well, the motion is actually being rewritten as I speak, but I would say that at this point, the onus in the motion is for the library board to come back with recommendations, because these are a board we appoint.
I know.
They are the responsible body at this point, so I'll wait and see what it gets rewritten as, but I will go to my next...
So my suggestion then, if I could, I don't know if it'll be part of the motion, that perhaps exploring some other opportunities in the community for a branch to remain. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and I love the enthusiasm coming from Councillor Miles. I love to hear out-of-box thinking. I love to hear forward thinking, and I think that's what one of our main priorities are to do. As a library board member, and just on the topic of bringing public into schools, I don't ever want any public coming into my child's school. I think that's, there was no mention of high schools, there was just mention of schools. So that is, and I know the school board feels very strongly about the intermingle of kids and public. So that's something that we really have to be cautious about. Councillor Sprovieri, after hours is something completely different.
Can I just stop? Councillor Pelletier, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's, again, something that I really want us to be cautious about, but there is, I think, a dim bit of light in that suggestion where, you know, there's something, obviously, that we need to do, we would like to do. We would like to have more access for people, closer access. I personally can't support a price tag of this magnitude. We have, I think, one of the best library services across the GTA, yet I believe it's the most underfunded library services across the GTA. Although they are very fiscally responsible library board, an efficient library board, they're still a very underfunded library board, and that goes, you know, back a few years, and we're trying to get up to the times and ahead of the game. Hopefully one day we'll get there. I'm just not sure about, you know, maybe there's an opportunity for a trailer as an interim period, and I feel that may be a lower cost. I put that to staff to come back and explain to me what that would look like. It is a big gap, but it is a gap that's going to be there once the new library is built. So therefore, the proximity with other libraries kind of has a big play into this, and the fact that this library eventually is not going to be there. And yes, another library that's close but not here will be constructed eventually. So there's a couple comments and questions out there, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Councillor Willens.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Pelletier actually knocked off one of mine about the feasibility of a mobile site like we had at the quite a few, because I'm sure there's probably fire stations, or there may be parks adjacent to them. We may be able to look at something like that in that area. And also, just to touch on the proximity, maybe, I'm okay with the report coming back, but could you maybe include the proximity of the residents from the northeast interim branch now to the Jacuzzi branch in Gore Meadows, and compare it with the proximity of the other wards in Brampton, like in their proximity to the downtown branch, the Mount Pleasant, and the Cyril Clark?
Certainly.
Good. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The operation, leases and everything through you to the delegation, is in the budget of the library board, correct? The library board controls all that, and that's where the budget is. As important as this is to the councilors and to that area, I think we're wasting everybody's time here. The reason being is what you're doing in this motion is telling the library board to find $350,000 to keep it open. Or you're telling staff to give the library board another $350,000. That's what you said from the beginning. Now, if that's being changed now to say, look at other options to find to accommodate these people, I think they're already doing that. It sounded like that's what you've been trying to do. So I'm not sure what the motion is trying to accomplish. Is council going to tell the library board what to do here? Sounds like it. And I think they're already doing their best, from what I hear, to try to accommodate during this gap that's happening. So $350,000, as Councillor Miles said, is a lot of money for a few amount of people. As important as it is to them, there are other libraries that they can go to for the time being.
So Councillor Spovieri, please.
Well, maybe,
one person.
Since the councillor seems to think I'm on the wrong track, maybe you could read the motion, because I think the clerk has been trying to massage it.
I think what we're trying to do is bring back what you like to use as a basis for decision-making, a report. So we're asking that the library board be requested to investigate the potential opportunity and funding implications of keeping open the interim Northwest Library branch location with an estimated total cost of approximately $350,000. And the library board will be asked to be coming back to report back before September 28th. So that's the gist of the motion. So Councillor Spovieri, if you would like to change the motion, I'll give it back to you, but that's what it says right now. Please stop interrupting Councillor Gibson.
So to the delegation, have you already been doing that? Have you already been looking at all these options and trying to accommodate the people that have been using that?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the board has been apprised at every step of the way, and when we went forward with the one-year lease extension in 2014, we anticipated that there would be some risk in that there would be a gap in service. We didn't anticipate that it would be as long as what's turning out to happen now. And we do understand at every step of the way, the board has been apprised of the unanticipated delays in construction, and we knew that there would be a gap. At the risk of sounding opportunistic at this time, but having the opportunity, I can let you know that for the 2017 budget, the library has requested a mobile library. We have requested a traveling, it wouldn't be a bookmobile, but something smaller that we would be able to provide pop-up library service across the city in a more reasonable way that I think would be investigated in a school, which is going to take some time, or another temporary trailer location, which is going to cause for additional resourcing to move collections in and out. So I'll put that out there for your knowledge. We are also trying to think outside the box of how we can extend library service outside our 6 physical locations.
And that sounds, sorry to jump in, and that sounds great. I think that's something I can support, but that doesn't help you in the next 30 days. My area that I represent has never had a library. And my area is over 150 years old. Never had a library. And you guys are not asking, I know you're trying to represent your constituents the best you can, you're asking us, some of us, to support $350,000 or direct the library to fund the $350,000 for what I heard one constituent called. I can't support that. I mean, well, I can support if we want to start looking at it and build a library for my constituents, in my ward. We've never, Councilor Moore and I have never had one. And Ward 3 and 4 have one, I think, the main library's downtown here. Some of the other wards, I think Bramley area has one. It's all perspective, and it's a lot of money. At $350,000 would be a lot of money to extend a contract to get going. So as much as I feel for the councillors, I can't support, I can't support wasting staff's or the library board's time. I think they've done everything they possibly can.
Councillor Dillon, so would it be helpful if we had a short delay while people worked out what this motion should look like? Because now I have something that looks completely different, and people are speaking to now a motion that no longer is on the table. Would that help? Okay.
May I?
Yeah.
Provide just some further clarification. The next meeting of the library board will be next Tuesday evening, so that's the 20th. And I can confirm for you now that we do not have $350,000 in reserves to allocate to this. So we would need to change direction in the expansion of hours at Mount Pleasant Village, which has already been announced to that neighborhood. So it's an either-or option as far as funding at this point.
Okay. Before the next three speakers speak, I'm going to tell you what the current motion reads, that city staff work with the library board in finding a solution to mean interim library services in the Springdale community and report back to council by September 28th. That's what the current motion says. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you. I think, just my last comments on this, I think, and then I got a couple of questions. I think library services are not just for particular wards. I think they serve everybody, even though they're in they're obviously in a ward. And I know Councillor Spovieri and I certainly think there's a lot of facilities aside from libraries that could be in our ward, but we think it's a shared resource. The questions I have are a couple of questions. It's $350,000 to operate on a yearly basis, the interim library. Has the money already been allocated somewhere else? Or is that $350,000 still just sitting there?
Through you. So, Madam Mayor, the cost of the lease is $100,000. So we budgeted to cover the lease until October 31st of this year. Then the cost of the leasing has been reassigned within the budget for the remainder of this year and going forward in 2017. The staffing costs are the other associated costs. And further to that, we haven't factored in anything around the technology or the collections that are housed. That's absorbable. That part is absorbable within the operations. So there's 2.5 staff members that are assigned to Northeast, and those staff hours have been reallocated to Mount Pleasant Village for the expansion of Mount Pleasant Village hours, beginning, I believe it's Thanksgiving weekend.
So essentially you're saying that the money has been, is it, so, because obviously the plaza is not the city's, it's privately owned. Is there a cutoff date that you, the library has to let, that the plaza has let the library know that this is the cutoff date, whether you can renew or not? So I'm not sure if the plaza already has somebody who's going to be taking over that unit. Are you aware of that information? And is there a final date that they had given? And is it possible to still do this?
Through you, Madam Chair. So we had advised the landlord that we would be out as per the 1-year lease extension on October 31st. When we initially received communication from Councillor's office, we went back to the landlord to determine whether or not there was availability, and she indicated at that time that there was. Now that was 2 weeks ago, so unless they've rented that storefront in the last 2 weeks, I think it's good to assume that there's still availability.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I will say, if the motion does succeed, if we can really get the particulars on, what, where it's been allocated, if there's a possibility that we can still continue the library. And I'll just say that I do agree with Councilor Sprovieri that I think we should do our due diligence and at least attempt to see if it's possible, because it is such an important resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll try and be very brief. Rebecca, you and your board do a fantastic job with the libraries and with the board. My question goes back to the 15 months were delayed. Is that a city issue? Is that a contractor issue? Can we talk about that? Because we're talking about extending a library for possibly 15 months. And, realistically, are we talking about extending a library 24 months, 30 months?
Through the chair to the councillor, it is not a city issue. It is an issue that we're having with some of the contractors, and specifically folks that have been contracted to construct the library. We are taking every means possible to expedite and mitigate the damages and delays. It's something we can't talk about in open, but we are doing our very best to mitigate and keep the current schedule on schedule. But there was some unforeseen site conditions that no one would have expected that contributed to the delays. And the other part of the delays, we are working closely with our internal stakeholders to have those addressed.
Okay. So, again, thinking outside the box, which I think is a good idea, maybe the contractor is willing to put some money towards some type of solution. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. But the other thing is, it's great to hear, Rebecca, that you're looking at a mobile library. And again, thinking outside the box, who knows, we may have a decommissioned bus that we could use at some point as well. So I think all your solutions are sitting up here. But I think working together, there's got to be some solution that we can come to here. I know libraries are so critical to everybody in the city. It is a small number of people that are using that library, but I think we've got to make sure that the circumstances that exist now aren't going to extend for any longer time, and let's exhaust some options anyways to see what can be done. So thank you.
My last speaker, I believe, is Councillor Palashi.
Oh, I feel honored. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just going back to the contractors, and is there any fining going on of the contractors that may, by way, be able to offset some of the cost of the?
Through the chair to the councillor, we are attempting to keep our vendors motivated and keep them on track. We are using every provision we have in the contract, and we are working closely with legal to explore all of our options, including any potential compensation. It's premature right now to speculate as to where that's going to go, but we are very active on this file and doing our very best to keep the vendor motivated and keep them on track.
Can we get into the nitty-gritty out here, or no?
I would not recommend that, no.
We're here to talk about a solution.
Councillor, I appreciate that you want to get into the details and into the weeds, but we don't actually have a report in front of us. And we're only here suggesting that the library board work with our staff to find a solution. So getting into the contractual obligations of the individual, I think, is straying from what this motion is and what we're here to decide on now.
Okay. Well, I'm not clear on which motion we're actually...
So if you'd like, I can read it again.
I can't. I'll just finish up by saying real quickly that if again, out-of-the-box thinking and forward-thinking, and if there's some kind of decommissioned bus, and we can turn that into a library, once we're done with it, can we park it in front of Grant Gibson's house, please?
Councillor Dillon.
Sorry, I lied. I have one more question. To the chair. When you know that, for example, the Northeast is going to be closing, is there any contingency plan that you guys have that's just for if there is a delay in the actual Springdale Library? Or is it just a hard set, you know what, we're just going to close it, we're going to wait? Do you take into account that there might be delays?
Through you, Madam Mayor, when we extended the 5-year lease, which was in October of 2014 or September, either one of those board meetings, the board meets monthly, at that point we were working on a 5-year lease and we asked for an additional year extension. So it was 2014. We had the plans, we were on track and moving forward with Springdale construction, had not yet started, but we had no reason to anticipate the kind of delays that we're facing now. So although the board has been apprised of delays and certainly discussions happened at the board table around the gap in service that the Northeast residents would experience, or the users of that branch would experience. No, there was not with all facts considered, there was not a contingency plan put in place to extend service at Northeast. Was that the question?
In the plans leading up to it, so I guess you guys assumed that there had to have been some type of plan that, or at least being aware that there's a possibility, or the possibility that Springdale could have been delayed. Or was the assumption or the thinking that we'll deal with it or any issues as the time gets closer?
Again, through you, Madam Mayor. So in May of this year, we had a discussion at the board about the construction delays and the gap in service. And again in June of this year, we had that conversation, and at that time the board confirmed and voted on October 1st closure for Northeast, understanding that there would be a gap and that the funds that had been allocated to Northeast would be reallocated to extend service in another area. So it's a dual situation. It wasn't just a decision to close Northeast and call it a day. It was a decision to close Northeast, take that funding and utilize it in what the board felt was a better utilization of funds.
So no, but what I'm trying to get to is, it's almost, we're going to have it for 10 years, the temporary library, the interim library. At some point, while the planning is going on, is what I'm trying to, you don't have to answer it. What I'm saying is that there should be some type of, whether it's contingency or whether it's some decision to be made to keep it open, or to just not renew the lease. There has to be some type of plan going forward, and we can't just say, you know what, we'll deal with it when we get there, because when you're dealing with an important service for the residents, we have to have a plan in place, whether we're going to go forward with it or we're going to have a hard set decision as to whether we're going to stop. And there has to be, we have to be ready to give answers to
Councillor, I
the
think this is a
residents.
conversation perhaps better suited to give to the library board itself. I mean, they made a decision, and the CEO is just here to reflect what the timing of that decision was.
Right, so I'll just finish up by saying, sorry if I got off a little bit off tangent, but I'll just wrap up by saying I think we need to be better prepared for any situation, and, you know, going with Murphy's Law, that, you know, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and I think we should have a hard set plan in place for whatever does happen.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
What does it say?
It says the city staff will work with the library board in finding a solution to maintain interim library services in the Springdale community and report back to council by September 28th, 2016.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I think we all need to be reminded that there's an independent library board. And I have absolutely no doubt that this was an agonizing decision for the board and for the staff and for yourself, Rebecca, to make the decision. to take the resources that you have and do the best that you can to make sure that there's service for the residents in that part of our city. And I think as I listen to the conversation, what I'm hearing, and maybe it's not clear to others, is that there is not going to be a gap in service. There's going to be a gap in convenience, but there's not going to be a gap in service. That you're taking the resources and you're putting them somewhere else so that the service, the programs, the circulation, and all the good programs that you have available are going to be available. Maybe not within a walking distance. Many of the residents in different parts of the city understand that they don't have that convenience. I have a great deal of sympathy for the area councillors because it's never easy to relocate or to try and take what, to send a message that it's not a gap in service. You can't walk to it, but, what people want to hear and how they feel it affects them are two different things. But the Northeast interim branch is not going to be there. And we can go through all the exercises that we need to here, but at the end of the day, you're just prolonging the agony because the branch is not going to be located there. It's going to be up in the Springdale, the location of the new Springdale branch. So the convenience that some are enjoying today is going to be more convenient for others. And so it's really just a matter of moving it all around. I have some trouble with the motion telling the library board what to do. You've done a terrific job. And, you're welcome, Councillor Palashi, and to those other councillors who sit there. I'm sorry I didn't pat you on the back. But the truth is, this is a tough decision, but you have done the absolute best to make sure that the residents in this city, and to use Councillor Dillon's words, they are services that are available across the city. We don't all have libraries in our wards, but the services are there in varying levels of convenience. So, I sat on a school board when we canceled junior kindergarten. There was a whole heck of a lot more than 250 people affected by that. So, and to be honest, that was a gap in service, and I understood, that it was an emotional debate and a tough decision as well. But, I think that we have a responsibility as members of this council to support our library board in that decision. I do acknowledge that it has an impact to the area councillors. Communicating the fact that the service level is still there, I think is something that maybe the area councillors could use some assistance with. Thank you.
Councillor Spovieri, you're on the board, but this is, I believe, the third time you're speaking on this issue. Is it for clarity on the motion that's on the floor?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to make it very short.
Hopefully, yes.
Very short.
This is an added item.
I want to say that this branch was very highly used, and I don't remember the numbers when it was operating. And the question begs to be asked is, had you known that the delay was going to be this extensive, would you have planned differently with keeping that interim branch open? Or would you have done what you're doing to suggest that you're going to close it down and relocate the resources somewhere else?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's impossible to answer that question in hindsight. We have information now that we didn't have when this decision started to be discussed and dealt with at the library board in October of 2014. I am afraid I can't answer that.
Assuming that this branch would have been opened on time. That discussion, I'm sure, took that into account.
Thank you,
So
Councillor
anyway,
Spovieri.
Thank you,
so
Madam
much. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. We have a resolution in front of us. The city staff will work with the library board in finding a solution to maintain interim library service in the East Springdale community and report back to council by September 28th. It's moved by Councillor Spovieri, seconded by Councillor Dillon. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's lost. Thank you very much. Our next item of business, procurement. This item was discussed as part of consent, and item 18 is regional council business. Tomorrow, meetings scheduled for the Accessibility Advisory Committee and Appeal Housing Corporation are scheduled. Staff have prepared briefing notes, which have been distributed to members. Do any members have questions of staff? Otherwise, we'll move on with the agenda. Councilor Scarborough, are you on the motion on this item? Okay. Any questions on this item? Okay, thank you. We're now in the portion of the meeting dealing with the adoption of the city bylaws to give effect to council decisions made at this meeting and previous meetings. Do I have a motion, Mr. Clerk, with regards to the bylaws? Thank you. It's moved by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Bowman, that the bylaws 163-2016 to 164-2016 and 166-2016 to 196-2016 before council at its meeting of September 14th be given the required number of readings taken by the mayor and the city clerk and the corporate seal affixed thereto. All those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Our next item of business is item 21, closed session business. Oh, sorry. I do. Went too quickly. Public question period. We're now at, this is where we invite members of the public to come forward to the podium to ask any questions about any decision made by council at today's meeting. There's a 15-minute limit for all questions and answers. Are there any questions from the public about a decision that was made today at our council meeting? Going once, going twice. Thank you. Next item is closed business. I have a motion moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that council proceed into closed session to discuss matters pertaining to the following. 21.1, minutes of the closed session, City Council, July 6, 2016. 21.2, minutes of the closed session, Community and Public Services Committee, September 7, 2016. 21.3, minutes closed session, Corporate Services Committee of September 7, 2016. 21.4, report from Legal Counsel, Corporate Services regarding Conservation Review Board proceedings, Ward 1, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. 21.5, report from the Commissioner of Community Services, notice of arbitration, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. 21.6, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, court matter. 21.7, minutes closed session, Planning and Infrastructure Services Committee of September 12th. 21.8.1.8 has already been dealt with, and 21.9, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications received for such purpose and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, court matter. Councillor Miles, did you want to speak? Okay, it depends on you voting, but yes, you will get a break.
Thank you.
All those in favor? That's carried. This meeting is now recessed in order for council to consider its closed session business in council committee room. All meetings of council must start and end in public session. Council, could you please stay in the room while I'm reading this till we get to the end? After closed session is completed, council will reconvene in public session in the council chambers to complete its business on today's agenda, including reporting out on any actions arising from its closed session portion of the meeting, passing a confirming bylaw to confirm the proceedings and decisions from this meeting, and adjourning the meeting. So council, if we could be back in closed session at 1:45, so that would give you a half an hour. We'll see you at 1:45. We're recessed.
I know. I have to wash your clothes.
I'm over here because